Meera Kapoor, 28, a successful and elegant matchmaker known for her intuition and ability to create perfect couples, but she's secretly skeptical of love for herself. Arjun Malhotra, 30, a wealthy, charming yet emotionally guarded man who hires Meera to find him a wife due to family pressure. The sound of heels tapping across the polished floor echoed through the sleek glass walls of Kapoor Connections, Delhi's most exclusive matchmaking agency. Meera Kapoor adjusted the collar of her navy blue blazer as she entered her office. Her assistant had left the usual stack of profiles on her desk, but one file was marked with a gold star. High profile, VIP client, walk in, said he wouldn't take no for an answer. She rolled her eyes but couldn't help smiling. Of course he did. Moments later, the door opened. In stepped Arjun Malhotra, tall, broad-shouldered, dressed in a crisp black suit, and oozing nonchalance. His eyes scanned the room with quiet arrogance until they landed on Meera. "Miss Kapoor," he said with a smirk. "I hear you're the best in town. I need a wife. Fast." Meera raised an eyebrow. "This isn't a fast food restaurant, Mr. Malhotra." He laughed. "Good, I hate fast food." She leaned back in her chair. "Let's get one thing straight. I'll find you the perfect match, but you don't do love," he interrupted, glancing at a plaque on her desk that read, "Rule number 1. Never fall in love with the client." "Exactly," she said firmly. "I don't fall in love. I create it." Arjun chuckled. "That's a shame. You seem like someone who could use some of your own magic." Meera didn't flinch, though something about his gaze unsettled her. It was too honest. "Just fill out the questionnaire, Mr. Malhotra. I'll take care of the rest." As he sat across from her, smirking while scribbling in his profile, Meera looked away and reminded herself of her most important rule: never fall in love with the client. But her heart, inexplicably, fluttered for the first time in years. Arjun's file was frustratingly vague. "Describe your ideal partner," Meera read aloud, frowning. "Someone who doesn't talk too much, doesn't pretend, and smells like rain." "What does that even mean?" Sia, peeking into Meera's office with a coffee in hand, laughed. "Sounds poetic. Or impossible." Meera sighed. "He's impossible." But Meera did her job. She lined up the best matches from her client list: elegant women with Ivy League degrees, CEOs in silk saris, sweet-natured philanthropists. The kinds of women who usually made men like Arjun melt. Except, Arjun didn't melt. Date 1. An art gallery owner. He yawned halfway through her speech on abstract expressionism. Date 2. A Bollywood fitness trainer. He spent the entire dinner talking about Meera. Date 3. A neuroscientist with dimples. He cancelled last minute and asked Meera to dinner instead. Meera refused. Firmly. "You're sabotaging these dates," she told him over a phone call. "Do you want to stay single forever?" "Maybe," Arjun said lazily. "Or maybe you're just not trying hard enough." She gritted her teeth. "You hired me, Arjun. Let me do my job." I'm giving you material for your next blog post, when the perfect man refuses the perfect women." "You're welcome." She hung up before she could say something unprofessional. Later that night, she sat on her couch, barefoot, with a glass of wine and his profile in her lap. No matter how hard she tried to dismiss it, something about him stuck in her mind. The way he looked at her like he already knew she was lying about not believing in love. The way he called her out, gently, but directly. Maybe he wasn't sabotaging the dates. Maybe he just wasn't interested in anyone else. The next morning, Arjun showed up at her office without an appointment. "Let me take you out," he said smoothly, leaning against her desk. "Out of the question," Meera replied, not looking up from her laptop. As a test, he added. "You said none of the matches worked. What if the problem is the matchmaker doesn't understand me?" Her fingers paused on the keyboard. "You're seriously suggesting I go on a fake date with you? For research?" He grinned. "Exactly." Meera gave him a long, evaluating look. "Fine. 1 coffee. Strictly professional. No flirting. No promises," he said with a wink. As he left, Sia popped her head in. "Is he another disaster?" Meera stared at the door, her heart thudding traitorously. "Worse," she said quietly. "He's a disaster waiting to happen." The cafe was small, tucked in a quiet Delhi lane, with warm lighting and antique furniture. Meera had chosen it deliberately, neutral, quiet, and public enough to avoid any misunderstandings. Arjun arrived 5 minutes early. "You look business casual romantic," he said, smiling as she approached in a pale lavender kurta and jeans. She ignored the compliment and slid into the seat opposite him. "Let's begin," she said crisply, pulling out her notebook. "You brought notes?" he chuckled. "Are you interviewing me or speed dating me?" "I'm observing," Meera said, crossing her legs. This isn't a real date. He leaned in slightly, eyes twinkling. Is it starting to feel like one, though? She blinked. Her heart did that thing again. That skip she'd tried to ignore every time he smiled. Clearing her throat, she focused on her questions. Tell me the last time you felt emotionally vulnerable. Arjun's smile faded a little. He looked away for a moment. My mom passed away 2 years ago. Heart failure. One morning she was there, nagging me about eating lunch, and the next, silence. Mira's pen stilled on the page. I'm sorry, she said, softly. Arjun shrugged. She wanted to see me married. She used to joke that only a woman could teach me how to talk about feelings. I think that's part of why I came to you. Mira looked at him for a long moment. You're not as shallow as you pretend to be. He smiled faintly. Neither are you. For the first time, the air between them wasn't filled with sarcasm or banter. It was heavy, real. That scared her more than anything. When they left the cafe, walking side by side to their cars, Arjun paused. Thanks for the research date, he said, putting air quotes around it. Did the matchmaker learn anything new? Mira didn't meet his eyes. Yes, she said quietly. She learned this was a mistake. Before he could say anything, she slipped into her car and drove off, heart pounding. Back in her apartment that night, Sia called. So how was it? The fake date? Mira stared at her reflection in the dark window, unable to lie. It felt too real, she whispered. And she knew now, she was in trouble. Because the lines were blurring. And if she wasn't careful, she'd break the one rule that had protected her heart for years. Mira avoided Arjun for a week. She buried herself in other client profiles, went on long walks without her phone, and even turned down dinner plans with Sia. Just to avoid the temptation of overthinking one coffee date that wasn't even a date. But Arjun didn't make it easy. He texted her every other day. Arjun. Found a new cafe. You'd hate it. No notepads allowed. Arjun. My cousin Karen thinks I'm in love with my matchmaker. I told him I wasn't. But I think he saw through me. Arjun. Still not interested in anyone else. Thought you should know. Not giving up on your service, just recalibrating my preferences. Mira didn't respond. Until one day, he showed up again, this time, not at her office or at a cafe, but at her apartment. It was raining. Of course it was raining. She opened the door in her robe, eyes wide. How did you know where I? Sia, he said unapologetically, holding up a soggy brown paper bag. I brought dinner. Before you slam the door, at least accept the biryani. She hesitated, then stepped aside. Over takeout and quiet jazz playing from her Bluetooth speaker, the tension that had simmered between them finally cracked open. Arjun leaned back on her couch, his fingers resting on the edge of a pillow, inches from hers. I've never met anyone like you, he said. Mira swallowed. I'm just your matchmaker. No, he said, softly but clearly. You're more than that. You challenge me. You see through the surface. And, you make me want to believe in things I've always rolled my eyes at. She looked at him, her heart racing, her breath catching. Don't, she whispered. Don't say things like that. Why not? He asked, tilting his head. Because you're my client, she said, standing up abruptly. And I have rules for a reason, Arjun. I can't afford to. Feel something? He interrupted, rising too. I can't, she said again, this time quieter. He took a step forward. But you do. Silence stretched between them, thick and full of everything unsaid. Mira looked up at him, trembling. This can't happen. He stepped back, nodding slowly. Then tell me you feel nothing. Right now. Say it, and I'll walk out. Mira's lips parted, but no sound came out. She looked at him with everything in her eyes, fear, longing, guilt, hope. But her voice failed her. Arjun watched her a moment longer, then gave a rueful smile. I'll go, he said. But you and I both know, this isn't over. And just like that, he left, leaving behind the scent of rain, cardamom, and everything she tried so hard to deny. Days passed. Mira returned to her agency, professionally composed on the outside but crumbling silently within. Arjun hadn't texted. He hadn't shown up. He'd respected her silence, and that was what hurt the most. Because he meant it when he said he'd go. And she had let him. Sia watched her for 2 days before finally asking, do you feel relieved or wrecked? Mira smiled tightly. Both. But that night, alone at her desk, surrounded by love stories she had written for others, she looked at the sign on her wall. Rule number 1. Never fall in love with a client. And she realized something. She had made that rule out of fear. Fear of losing control. Fear of being seen. Fear of getting hurt. But Arjun had seen her, and still stayed. And what did she do? She sent him away. The next morning, Mira did something she hadn't done in years. She showed up at someone else's door uninvited. Arjun answered, shirt rumpled, eyes tired like he hadn't slept well in days. He didn't say anything, neither did she, not at first, but then she looked up at him, her voice shaking. I made that rule because I never thought anyone could love me back the way I love others, without wanting to fix or tame me. He stayed silent, but something in his eyes softened. Mira took a breath. But then you came in, arrogant and annoying, and somewhere between your bad jokes and your rainy cologne. I fell. You said you couldn't afford to feel, Arjun said, voice low. So what changed? She smiled sadly. I realized that what I can't afford is to regret. And then, with the world spinning too fast and too right, she did what she had sworn she would never do. She kissed him, not the desperate, rushed kind, but the kind you give when you've waited long enough. When the rules stop mattering. When love becomes the only answer that makes sense. 6 months later, a new plaque sat on Mira's desk. Rule number 1. Sometimes, love writes its own rules. And beneath it, a photo, Mira and Arjun, arms around each other, smiling with the kind of joy that couldn't be faked. Her matchmaking business was still thriving. But she had only one client she ever let herself fall for. And he had fallen right back.